8th session of teachings of Rumi and Iqbal. Thanks for coming again, despite all the severe weather and the heavy rain. I really appreciate everyone's coming. Today I'll keep the session somewhat simple and to the point, and hopefully we'll leave more time for questions at the end. Although the topics that any topic that one discusses or touches from Rumi and Iqbal's teachings, it has the depth and it requires time. But for the interest of catering to the gathering that we have, I think it's better to simplify it and then elaborate any point that needs elaboration at the end. I read one verse of Rumi in one of his ghazals in ghazal book, not in Masnavi, and it really grabbed my attention to the point that I thought I'll use that today as a topic. And that particular verse says, Man ravam suve nihayat al-sal, Man zitan Uriyan Shudam, who was Hayal. Let me repeat. Man Ravam Suve ne Hayatul Vasal, Man Zetan Uriyan Shudam, who was Hayal. Simply translated in English, it means I'm walking, I'm going towards the best of the best unions, or the climax of the union with my beloved. And in so doing, man zetan uriyan shudam, I have become naked of my me, so to speak. Who as khayal, and my beloved is no longer an imagination. He's not a khayal anymore. He's not an. What he's saying is that now I have become so close to my beloved that I have lost myself. I am no longer who I was before. And I used to imagine what he would be like and what kind of presence he will have or command. Now, and each word here is really full of many meanings. But basically he's saying that in being a human being and a believer and a pure believer and believing in God to the point that my iman is perfect. So at this point, I am actually face to face with the reality, face to face with Him. So that's all is the union, or being face to face with your beloved, having a meeting. The ayat is the really epitome or climax, or the best of the best. Now I used that to begin my discussion basically because it's to do with ourselves and we are going back to where we came from. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are for Him and we are directed at going back towards Him. Now this, because it's going to be a little difficult, if Qawwal is singing at the gathering of a caliph, a Turkish Khalifa, and he has invited him to have Qawwali, and at the end of a couple of hours he'll give him his money, he'll be on his way, but Qawwal starts to sing, and he basically is saying, Namidanam, Namidanam, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Let me just use one or two lines. Guli ya susani, ya sarv ya mahi namidana, waziya shufta e bedil, chimi khai namidana. You are a flower, or you are a beautiful branch of it, beautiful tree, or you are a moon, I have no idea, I don't know. Waziya shufta e bedil, and from me, a desperate one, chimi khai, what are you looking for? What do you want from me? Namidana, I don't know. In other words, he's indirectly saying to his beloved, what do you look like? Are you a flower? Are you a fragrance? Are you are you moon-like or whatever he could as a human being imagine, he's saying it. And he says, I am not worthy of much, and yet I don't know what you expect from me. He didn't stop there. Now you know how Qawwals are. They usually repeat Namidanam, Namidanam, Namidanam. And this man, obviously the busy Khalifa, he had things to do. So he's getting angry and angry and angry. So in the Persian one, he says, I asked you where you are from, and you are saying, I'm not from Hijaz, I'm not from Basra, I'm not from Chin, I'm not from Lahore, I'm not from Bukhara, I'm not from Balakh. Tell me where you are from, rather don't tell me where you're not from. Just like I asked you what did you eat, and you say, I did not eat kebab, I did not drink sharab, I did not have masala, I didn't have laddu. He's just repeating Namidanam, Namidanam, you're just saying it, telling me absolutely nothing. He picks up a stick and he runs towards the Qawwal and he wants to really get rid of him. And in the meantime, a guard stops him along the way. And he says, don't hit him. Let's see why he's saying what he's saying. They ask the Qawwal, why don't you move on, tell us what you know. I don't want to know what you don't know, because you keep saying Namidanam, Namidanam. Say something positive that you know, we learned something from you. Then he says, unless I negate all the things, then the reality cannot really present itself. I have to negate and negate and negate, and once I have negated everything, then and only then, whatever is, whoever he is, his being will manifest itself. Okay, we have learned it at the beginning also, that when Rumi was giving the story of his flute, that na has to be empty from within. It has to be connected to the master so that you can then connect it to him and his voice comes through it. If it's filled with things, worldly things, then it cannot make a sound, and your maker or one who plays you will put you down and he will not use you again. So basically that concept, he says, you have to negate the worldly things, turn yourself away from the greed and of this world, and then and only then you will be able to get the reality. Then you will, that ispat. Nafi is followed by ispat, but that nafi has to be done regularly. La ilaha, la ilaha, la ilaha. There is nobody worthy of worship, nobody worthy of worship. That is a repeat. Believe in it, that whatever you have in your life or whatever your attributes are coming only and only from but to internalize it and live by it and actually, experience within it, it's very, very difficult. It requires a lot of mujahida. They say that, and Rumi's teachings and Iqbal's teaching basically continue to tell us that unless and until you disconnect from this world to the point that it no longer impacts you, it does not attract you at all, then and only then you will be able to connect it to the real haqiqat, the real reality of your life, and real being, true being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your creator. Now, how do you do this? The next verse that I wrote for you is Fani az khud sho, basho baki bahak, sar bihad az batinat rabbul falak. Fani az khud sho, be perishable within yourself. Just destroy yourself and be free of your being. Basho baki bahak, and then live with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stay alive with Him. Kill yourself, let yourself perish, and then get a life so that you can live with Him. Sardahat az batanat, head will come out from within you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divine presence will then manifest itself that will come from within you. You will be able to see it. Then you will be living with the divine beauty. In this, Rumi gives many examples in Persian verses, and he says that if you want to see a living example of that, look at Abu Bakr Siddiq. He has achieved that status by examples of how you live with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have just totally annihilated that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created his universe, in the beginning they say it was a kunat light. It was just the nur that was cool. And from that, the angels and human spirits were created. And then a Big Bang kind of a thing happened, and there was heat, and everything became kind of molecules became dispersed, and the kainat started to create itself. That was from an Amr Kun. So from that, Alam Khalq came around afterwards, when all the planets and Earth and whatever have you came into being. Earth was very hot in the beginning, then it ran and there was water and all of that. And when it cooled off after who knows how many millenniums, then from that dirt and mixture of water, Adam's body was created. Then the soul of Adam from beginning, from that time, came into being. Of course, the first soul ever created was that of our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You all know that. That was the first soul created. But Adam's soul comes into Adam at the time when earth was now habitable, and it was possible for the life, both kind of life, the animal life and the plant life, was able to sustain itself. So now, in that background, try to understand now as to what Rumi is saying here is that now you have to live by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that physical body that you got living on this earth, that is no longer important to you anymore. Now you are having a spiritual being, and that spiritual being, it has no limit as to where it could be. It could be at the same time you could see it in this part of the globe, that part of the globe. It could carry on all kinds of things, just like Angel Gabriel does. He's many places at the same time. So other angels also can be, because there is no limit or constraints of time on that kind of a creation. Similarly, humans have that element within them that they can actually transcend into a being who can do things that are divinely, and they become agents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they do that. Now, that of course, when Kawal mentioned all that I have to really do all the nafi first, so that after you die, you will be able to see the spot, the presence, and what really exists, you will see only once you die. And he says, by this dying, I don't mean the one that puts you in the grave. No, I'm talking about dying this physical life of greed and kind of human features that are tied to the nafs. If you can relieve yourself of this and live with the light, with the nur, then you have a different kind of an existence. And you have to, once you get into that stage, then you will have face to face with reality. That's when you will become eternally alive, and you will have a life, and you will be able to see. Then you, from mujahida, you will go into mushahida. You will be actually inside, face to the reality. Now this is as Iqbal, I have used 3 or 4 of his verses here underneath. Iqbal basically says, Arsh Mualla se kam Sina-e Adam nahi. गर्चे कफ़े खाक की हद है सफ़हरे कबूल. अर्श मुअल्ला से कम. अर्श मुअल्ला is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seated. So we can actually be with him face to face. Sinae Adam nahi. It's not less than Arsh Maula. The heart of a believer is not any less than Arsh Maula. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can live in that. Garche kafe haq ki had hai sapere kabul. Although the blue sky basically seems to be the limit of what humans can really go to, but that is not real. This is just for the physical being. Haath hai Allah ka, banda hai momin ka haath. Ghalib o kar afri, kar kusha, kar saaz. Time comes when hand of a man is basically hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know in Quran, Qari Sahib is sitting here, he attests to it. The Quran is a verse that says that you did not throw the pebbles or stones. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala threw the pebbles. So it looks like it's your hand, but it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand. Similarly, we know the story of Badr, battle, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent angels to help. However, people were throwing things, and it appeared to the army of enemies that it was coming from few soldiers that were there, few people that were face to face in the battle, but it was basically coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his army. So a time comes when haath hai Allah ka, banda hai momin ka haath. Ghalib o kar afri. Ghalib is the one that is always dominant. Kar afri, it can actually do things for you. It does best at arrangements and management for you. You may not even realize what you need. Kar afri is somebody who knows what you need and gets it done for you. Then kar kusha, it can actually expand what you want, give you more of what you need. And kar saaz, and it can make things that are broken. In other words, if you need something and it didn't work out for you, he'll fix that for you. All of this is possible by a human being, by a mardhe moment. And Nukta-e Prakar, this is my favorite. Nukta-e Prakar-e Haq. You know Prakar, if you remember it? Prakar is the little thing that we used to use in geometry. You put it like this and then you go make a circle with a pencil. Belief of a human believer. When he believes that this is what I want, that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala centers. And then everything, all affairs are centered around His will. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will becomes your will. Razi wa raza. When you are razi wa raza, when you are in sync with His wills, then His will becomes your will. Just like I had given the story, Rumi says the story of a man who was on the street corner or whatever. Somebody asked, how do you feel? He said, how should I feel? The sun is moving because of what I want, the weather is being changed because the way I want, the birds are flying the way I want them to fly. He said, what are you saying, all this? It doesn't make any sense. He said, no. Long time ago I gave my will into the hands of God. And God's will is my will. And I accepted that as it comes. So now, all of this is really like my will. Now, he may have used that as a teaching point for the other fellow, but it's based on actual Islamic beliefs that a time comes when your will becomes in sync with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that whatever you wish, you imagine, it gets done for you. और ये आलम तमाम वहम व तलिस्म व मजाज. He says, up and the rest of it, although now you said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want this to happen this way. Now everything is happening the way you want. Others can't see that. For the rest of the universe, it's all wahm, their imagination. The list is some magical stuff that is not real. Majaz is unreal, something that's like sarab. When you're walking in a desert and you see things like this, you think it's water, but it's actually rays of heat that are coming off the sand, and you feel that it looks like water, but it's not. So that's majaz, unreal. So at a point comes when you have that much power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's universe is now running as if it's running by your command. And now you are at peace with Him. And this is the essence of perfection of life. That's when you become Mardhe Kamil. That's when you become Mardhe Moment. And to the point, like he started, Man Ravam Suvene Ayatul Nisa. That's the ultimate union with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man Zetan Uriyan Shudam. I no longer exist as I was. These are the people that could be sitting there somewhere for weeks in jungle, not having anything to eat. They are perfectly healthy looking, fine. They are, of course, they are not having muscular or anything else. They are living ordinarily and they look fairly healthy, but they somehow or the other are not dependent on food. Their sustenance comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala somehow, and they are always very content with it. Now, there's one verse I used somewhere along the line. It says, "Waqtra wa ghaire haq zaye makun." Do not waste your time on things other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Waqtra, to the time. Wa ghaire haq, with anybody other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Zaye makun, don't waste. Don't waste your time on things other than divine things, other than remembrance of Allah. Batan ra pur, fill in the tummy. Ruh ra jaya makun. Don't starve your spirit and don't fill your stomach. Don't put too much in your stomach and do not starve your spirits. Think of nurturing your soul. Think of nurturing your spirits. Grow spiritually. And you can grow spiritually only when you keep your stomach empty, which means not only food, but your wishes, your desires, your needs, the worldly things, the resources that you have and all that. Don't spend too much time in collecting those. Don't eat too much. Don't try to hoard everything. Don't give too much importance to collecting worldly things. Try to collect spiritual things. Try to grow spiritually so that you can actually realize your the potential of your true being. Now, this looks like a simple, repeatedly, time and again, between Iqbal and Rumi and others also that talk about spirituality. You get this message repeatedly that those who have attained closeness and nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically have not paid much attention to the worldly things. Does not mean that you cannot have these things. You can have these, but they should not be the center of your attention. These things should not be something that you spend your life on, always trying to do that and ignoring your spiritual being. How do you nurture your spiritual being? We had talked about this before. But nurturing your always being aware of presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word used in our literature is muttaqi. Muttaqi is not fear. My diction is one who is always aware of presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are aware that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you, around you, watching over you, you are muttaqi. Not that you are afraid of him, but you realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you, around you, and He is watching you all the time. If you are always aware of that, cognizant of that fact, then you are trying to get closer to Him. Then you remember Him by His names and try to think of Him, talk of Him all the time. And as you do that, you purify your heart. And I gave the title to this, Ramz-e-La, the secret of law. Secret of denying everything other than Allah. And Nafi ma siva. This negation of ma siva. Ma means what? Siva means other. Sivaye unke, everything else. Ma, whatever, siva is other than that. So ma siva, you can recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always with you, and then you don't have to be something very supernatural to achieve that. Any human being who is sincere in believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and believing all the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can get on that road path. And depending on sincerity and effort that one makes and the company that one keeps and environment that one chooses, it's possible to be able to go there. And you will see, even in any time, any dawr, when you ask for something in your heart, that dua is translated into really presenting you with whatever you ask for, and it does so through his creation. You may find things happening, you may not realize that, you may think it's a happenstance or a chance, but actually there is somebody who was assigned to do that for you, and he did it. So if you are aware of that phenomena, you have to say, thank you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for doing that. And once you learn to thank him, then you realize, then you will see that yes, all of this is possible. Now, that hadith that we started with, mutu qabla an tamutu, means basically this: die this physical being, kill yourself before you actually die, so that you can see the reality that is the life. And most of the companions of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had come that much close to the reality, to the truths that and others that actually took from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they have abilities beyond belief. Of course, when you attain that status, you don't talk about it, and you basically do Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's work. But those who are knowledgeable, those who are aware of all of that, they can see all this happening. And they attribute all of this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say, Haza min fadle Rabbi. This is by the mercy and grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what did I say today? That we have to learn. We came here with a purpose. We have to try to realize what our purpose of our life is. Try to connect with our Creator. He has given. Use those to think of Him, connect with Him, nurture your spirits, nurture spiritually, and you will be able to see the reality of life, and then you will be one-to-one with God. A time comes when you are so peaceful with yourself, nothing bothers you anymore, because whatever His will is, it becomes your will, and this is not necessarily translated into a particular religious faith system. This is another thing that is quite delicate. Rumi makes a point, and it's not my saying, nor it's Rumi saying, that do not think that a Jew in your company is necessarily deprived of any of that, although you may feel that he did not believe in the last prophet, as we do, that he may not be able to get salvation, yet you don't know whether he was able to repent and Allah forgave him before he died or not. The Rumi says, be careful about others. Love everyone. Give everybody the benefit of the doubt, because he has created all this universe. And all children that are walking around are his children, although some are Christians and some are Jews, some don't believe in him. But he sustains all of them. So you are not there to say XYZ may or may not get there. I say this because sometimes some of these jobs have to be done by other men, especially Muslims. Maybe others Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses to get his work done also, and we are nobody to judge others in that sense. If somebody directly asks you, of course, then you have to say that proper thing to say, whether you are Christian, you are a Muslim. So I'm going to stop here and see if it has created any question in your mind, so that you can then discuss, and maybe I can share some wisdom from you. Any questions?
There's a question that I had was that the essence and gist of this lecture and these thoughts from Iqbal and Rumi are that in order to achieve the status of Ruhaniyat, you have to detach yourself and you have to spiritually die of,
No, physically.
No, physically.
physically die
Ah.
of this greed and this world.
Mhm.
But doesn't our religion, on the other hand, says, do everything that God has given you on this earth. Do trade, travel, meet other people. Do not detach. Keep engaged. And then I'm going to judge you as you lead your life here. And whether you do good things or bad things in terms of your relationship and your dealings in this world. Isn't it?
Exactly, you got the point.
Gee.
I was trying to make the same point
Gee.
that you have to understand the true message in that. You see, prior to Islam, there was Rahmaniyat,
Right.
where people just detached themselves from the world and sat in a corner and did nothing.
Buddhist.
Islam was against that.
Yeah, against that.
So you have to live the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed you.
Designed it. Gee.
And do the work, and in so doing, constantly remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the cleansing from
Right.
within. What you are doing is negating yourself and yet building your khudi.
Right.
Iqbal used that word khudi ko kar buland. You have to, that spiritual body that you are growing within you, that is increasing.
Right.
You are actually growing spiritually. Your khudi is increasing.
Yes.
Your khudi is getting stronger and stronger.
Yes.
That is your self-being. Now, physical being, negate that.
Yes.
Khudi, build it. So it's actually taking from the matter,
Right.
worldly things, and putting it into the spirituality. Now, once your faith system becomes such, you see, nafiyas baat da pani milya, har rage har jai hu, you know, Bahu Sultan Bahu. Alif Allah chambe di booty, murshid man mere vich lai hu. Alif Allah means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His message, my mentor, my teacher has sowed in my heart.
Right.
My teacher, my murshid has taught me to think of Allah. Alif Allah Chambedi Budi is a flowering kind of a little shrub that He has designed for you, working as an element in the society He placed you.
Right.
Then continue to think of Him and be with Him all the time. And that makes everything you do as an ibadah. Anything that you do is a worship for you. When you're earning livelihood for your family, it's an ibadah.
Right.
When you're raising your children and being kind to them, it's an ibadah.
Yeah.
When you are actually teaching them to do right and not wrong, ibadah. Everything becomes a worship.
Yes. Yes.
And then a point like that comes when you become cognizant of this in a mature age.
Gee.
And you basically are now trying to be closer to them. Then things happen. Yes.
I mean, in present day Islam that we are living, or say our parents lived, everybody thought that when I grew up in Pakistan, somebody was going for Hajj, and we were running after his train, and we were saying he's going after Hajj. When he came back, we gave him flowers, and he sat for many days in the house, people, as if something has happened, whereas he should have been greater from the very beginning, that nothing has changed in the sense Allah wanted us to be like this even before you went to Hajj, that you now is Haji Sahab, now you will not do fraud and you will not do other things. But we were Hajis in the sense that when we were going to shop, if we gave 1 rupee and he charged us 12 annas and he returned us 14 ane, we were supposed to give 2 annas back and say, listen guy, don't overpay me. But we detached that from our life, and we still have detached here that we are blocking the driveway of a neighbor, which will start tomorrow,
For him, yes.
and I'm running ke bhai maine to jaake namaz padhni, I have to pray, which is more important than Allah taught us
Yes.
not to do.
Yes. Exactly.
And we have lost the message of religion in that
There are
sense.
levels of that.
Ji.
There are levels of that, and there are stages of human life also.
Ji.
The same people who at an earlier age may be doing certain things that we and you may find objectionable, the same people at a later on age turn towards doing
In
things
fact,
that they
Hajj
find-
used to be a turning point
Yes.
for
Yeah,
people.
it was supposed to be, yeah.
Which we shouldn't have been, right?
I am-
We should have been leading that life to begin with,
I am
rather
trying-
than suddenly.
I wanted to say that Kari Sabdas reminded me that you see, this word does distract you. And the purpose of going to Hajj, the way our culture had taught, the example that you gave, was that once you do that,
Yeah.
now you are under the radar.
Right.
You try to be.
Everybody says Haji Sahib will not do it, but you can do it.
Yes. So,
But
yeah.
no, none of us is allowed to do it.
We should have been cautious even before
Right.
that. But again, you see, just like that kawal that will continue to repeat certain words to put you in a trance, similarly, certain environment puts you in that trance.
Gee.
So it's not always easy for me to say that I think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. When I come to the masjid, my feelings are different than when I'm at home.
Right.
Similarly,
True.
when I go with the Hajis, and I have people around me that are giving me that company, and how many angels are around them, I don't know. All of that really has an impact. And when you go in front of Kabatullah, then the feelings are just totally unbelievable.
Yes.
So that makes a difference.
No,
So-
that does make a difference, but it should not be from negative to 100. I mean, we should have been at least 80 before we went to Kaaba and became 100. But what we have been doing was to negative 100 to suddenly come to positive 100.
May Allah
But
subhanahu wa
I
ta'ala
think to add to what Suhail said about that Islam says that you have to live the physical life along with the spiritual life and live in this world, and priesthood is not what Islam is all about. But in my mind it is that the physical being and doing physical growth, physical being has to be taken care of to the extent that it promotes and grows the we have lost. That I think
Perfect.
balances
Yeah.
That is very well put.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So you really don't run away from this.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a bounty in this life, accept it.
Yes.
Take it.
Yeah.
Spend it in His way.
Right.
You have 50,000 things you can do with
Do
Allah
with-
subhanahu wa ta'ala's grace
Yes.
and the bounty that He gives you. But don't make it the purpose of your
The
life.
purpose.
That is the point. And I think you clarified it very well. So that's good. So that is the purpose. We are not necessarily supposed to be poor and downtrodden.
Exactly, no.
We should live to the fullest extent. You are starving and hungry, sleeping hungry. That's not the teachings of Islam, and that's not things around you because of whatever He has given you, and He can give you more.
HALQA-E-RUMI-O-IQBAL.
Yes. Yes. Because all His creation is beloved to Him. And you have to serve His creation as if you are serving Him. Yes.
And to recognize, like you just said, the bounties that Allah has given, because denial of that itself is the denial of Allah's
That's
rahmah.
good. Yes. Yeah. That's like turning it away.
Yes.
Mm.
I mean, you have, I'm relating it to our masjid, you have from podium repeatedly said that we should recognize that we came as immigrants. हम लाए गए हैं, remember Dr. Saab?
तू यहाँ आया नहीं, लाया गया
लाया
है।
गया है।
तेरा आनंद
See?
रुकता है तौहीद की तफसीर थी।
See, but can you relate it to, yes, that this is, everything has
Happens with
a
a
purpose.
purpose.
And then suddenly you come here and you do not get involved in things to change like we are doing, then you have negated why God brought you here.
Exactly.
The spread of Islam, like when we came here, there was a small masjid, there are now 10 masajid So that is why you were brought here, the message that we have been
One day I was speaking
propagating.
to Kari Sahib. I said, you came here how many years ago? Coming here has been.
Gee, so that is the message.
It's a master plan, and we basically are just.
And we should not be in
Yeah.
denial of that master plan.
No.
The two examples of master plan are sitting right here, because this person would sit outside in the car while kids were and I were in the mosque, and Saad would just come and take his kid, drop
And
and
leave.
take the kids, and now look at them.
Look at it.
So
Yes,
that
yes,
is,
that
you know,
is
that
something.
is Allah's plan.
Baji is one of the examples of the
So,
Sunnah.
mashallah, this is
I
very good.
remember Suhail in the beginning when he came,
Yes,
and
yeah.
Faiza used to have this notepad in her hand, and she would write everything and Salisa would say, and we would talk about this.
I still do.
Suhail used to sit outside.
No, he would sit in the car and read Sunday Times.
In the beginning. But
Yeah.
then he started to come in,
Yeah.
and he would ask questions. I'm talking about when we were down there in the
Yes.
Azari area. And from that time to now, the amount of hours that you two have given to this masjid is unbelievable.
So God, I'm sure I'm going to
I was
Jannah
telling, I was
inshallah.
telling Muhammad, and
Yes.
remember how they come to pick you up for Sunday school.
Yes.
Sohail used to go to pick up the kids for the Sunday school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
She was going
all
to say something.
Yes, go ahead.
No,
Please.
that's okay. I was just going to add to what you so beautifully said about the fine line between recognizing that that gift, whether it's monetary, as the sabab, rather than replacing it as your ilah. So the fine line between taking the money that you've been granted to, use that in the works of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not replacing that money as your ilah, as
Yes.
the ends in and of
Correct.
itself.
Don't start to worship
And
that.
that's where you
Yeah.
become lost in the physical nature
Right.
of your being and the attainment of the spiritual being or the spiritual ascension is not